Hey everyone, and how? Let me try that again and speak English slowly. Hello everyone, and welcome to a Wednesday edition of Just Parlays. I'm Jim Williams, and my partner Chris King. As we say, it's Wednesday, another day to win at Parlays. That's what we're here to help you do. Christopher, crazy night last night, both in the NHL and the NBA. Not to mention college. You'd mentioned. Neither of us thought that the Bonnies would be run up and down Madison Square Garden's court by Xavier, but Xavier proves to be the better team. But the real one that you had pointed out in the pre-show, Texas A&M and Washington State, they definitely, I guess, wanted the under.
Yeah, I mean, first, let me apologize because I thought that, like I said, I thought St. Bonaventure and Xavier would end up under 139, not end up at 161, which is where it ended up. But then again, who expected that we would see 100 combined points in the second half of that game? With Texas A&M and Washington State, I mean, it was a close game at halftime. Texas A&M was up 6. Then you look at the first 10 minutes of the second half, Texas A&M outscored Washington State 30-13. And the game was over at that point because you have to think it was 62-39. And then down the stretch, nobody wanted to score any points. I mean, Washington State had no field goals in the last 5.5 minutes. Texas A&M didn't score at all in the last 5 minutes at all. You look, the teams combined to shoot 43 3-point attempts. They made 9. Texas A&M was 2 of 14. They shot 33 free throws and proceeded to miss 16 of those. So, I mean, they were just leaving points all over the place in order to try and make sure that this game did fall short of the number. And, you know, there's that song by Meatloaf, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Well, in college basketball yesterday, we're going to change it slightly and make it 2 out of 4 is okay.
Right.
Because if you're grading on a college level, 2 out of 4 is probably still a C at most colleges. Yeah. I never understood that when I went to school because, you know, I never understood how you could get a 40 and still get a D. So, you know, we'll give ourselves a C or maybe a C plus on the way college went yesterday. But, you know, we did better elsewhere. The NHL, the NBA. I mean, both the two teamers hit yesterday because we said the Bulls over the Wiz. They won by, I think it was 13 points as a 3.5-point favorite. The Wild beat the Flyers convincingly. The Bucks were an underdog when we went on the air. I think that line got bet up to a pick'em, and they beat the 76ers. And we talked about Florida beating Montreal, but we talked about in the pre-show about how they had their issues as well with goaltending. And if I'm Andrew Brunette, I'm wondering, you know, Spencer Knight, we know he's not the answer. Jonas Johansson, you know, they picked him up off waivers. He's probably not the answer either. But now, what do you do when you watch Sergei Bobrovsky give up 3 goals in a minute 42 against a team that's playing for nothing but tee times on the golf course next month because their season's already guaranteed to be over?
You're concerned.
You'd have to be.
Yeah, I mean, because there's nowhere to go to get a goalkeeper now,
right?
And unless they're stashing somebody away in the in the minors, which I don't think is the case. You know, sometimes goalkeepers, like everybody else, are streaky. I don't know. Maybe he had a bad day, or maybe he had a bad burrito, or maybe he had something during the period break or something that didn't agree with him. But 3 goals in less than 2 minutes is not kind of
especially against a doormat.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're facing, you know, a good team like the Oilers in the 80s where you had, you know, Curry and Gretzky and Anderson and Messier and all those guys, that's one thing. You're facing a Canadiens team that doesn't even have 20 wins.
Right.
And apparently Bananas said that that's a C plus, so we'll take it.
We'll take that. Thanks, Bananas.
Because a C plus is just that far away from a B minus.
That's right. We'll just
and Sly said that, you know, Florida and Minnesota and the Bulls and Texas A&M all came through for the old parlay, so good job for you, Sly. Glad that worked out for you.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can have some more success today. Yeah. And Euler, we see you up there already talking about the Sharks and Coyotes. I know everybody's excited about that matchup for sure. And you're right. There's been a lot of offensive machinery in those games, which I haven't decided if it's because all of a sudden these teams like to score when they play each other, or if it's just bad goaltending.
I think we're seeing bad goaltending all around the league.
But it seems when these two teams play, there's always a lot of offense, because if you look in the last 10 meetings between the Sharks and the Coyotes, the over is 8-1-1.
Wow.
Yeah, they've scored 7 combined totals of 7, 8, 7. 4 was the one under. It was a 4-0 shutout. Then 10, then 6, then 7, then 9, then 15 with that game right after Christmas. That was 8-7 in a shootout. And then they pushed a couple weeks ago at 6. But 8-1-1. So yeah, there's meat on the bone there, because the over 6 is going at plus 100. I think it's a safe bet. In fact, I think I have it in shot in the dark because of the fact that, like you said, these teams seem to score. They don't score goals against anybody else, because the Sharks are 28th in goals for, and the Coyotes are last. But when they play, there just seems to be a lot of fireworks, and you figure it out.
Well, it's one of those things where you just have to go back and say, maybe they just match up that way.
Badly?
Yeah. It's a bad match for both sides.
So it's a weird day for everybody, guys, because there's no college basketball tonight. The NIT final and the TBC final will be tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see Texas A&M and Xavier, and you'll see Coastal Carolina and Fresno State.
And that'll end basketball until the weekend.
Right. And then, after Monday, we'll be talking about the
Masters and the start of the baseball season.
And I'm sure there's a cornhole tournament or something going on somewhere.
What was it that Allie did when was it Korean
Russian table tennis?
Yeah, Russian table tennis, right?
Yeah, and the USFL will be coming up in April as well. I know everybody.
Please don't remind me. That's just painful.
Well, I mean, it could be worse.
Yeah, it could be the European league that they had, the World League of Football. Yeah, and they're playing all their games in Birmingham, so there's that.
Yeah, which is going to be weird, but I mean, it'll be nice to see some of these, some of the old team names back from the 80s. Seeing the New Jersey Generals and the Philadelphia Stars. I know our buddy Evan Weiner probably knows a lot, or could talk a lot about how things went in the USFL back in the 80s.
Yeah, I directed the games for the 3 years that they were in existence.
Did your name roll in the credits at the end when they show all the names? When you see Pat Summerall, everybody say, and our director Sandy Grossman, and blah blah blah.
Yeah, it's a funny thing about ESPN back in those days. ESPN occasionally mentioned it. There's a whole reason I'll tell you for another reason, but yeah, we were mentioned. Let's put it that way, because ESPN does not. To this very day, ESPN does not roll credits. There are no credits at the end of any ESPN broadcast. There's simply just a ESPN copyright. And one day I will tell you the reason. I will not share it with the audience for fear of retribution. But anyway, no.
But speaking of the USFL, Jim, what do you think about some of the options, the rule things that they've come out with? Since we have a few minutes to talk about,
they're fine. I mean,
they're gonna have, you can have the traditional onside kick from the 25 like you would in the NFL, or you can go for it on 4th and 12 at your own 33.
Yeah, to me, it's anything you can do just to play, just to try things, just to see whether it works or not. I mean, look at the USFL brought the 2-point conversion to the NFL, so there's that. Not also, and you're a Bills fan, Mouse Davis brought that offense that he moved Jim Kelly in the. They went up there, and there's a reason why the head coach of the Buffalo Bills during that time, graduated from Harvard. He's smart enough to know when he sees something that's working, use it, and that's where there was that. I mean, there are a lot of players in that. Steve Young played in the league. He went on to
And the
greatness.
interesting, to your point about Marv Levy, the other interesting thing was when he worked with the Blitz was two of the people that worked in the front office were Bill Polian and John Butler, who, Polian went on to be a multiple-time executive of the year. Butler took over the GM role after Polian was fired in Buffalo. I still don't understand what the whole fiasco was with that, and it's been 3 decades.
We also had Carl Peterson, who was with the Stars, who went on to do a very good job in Philadelphia and then move on and do a good job in Kansas City. So there's that. You had a number of players who would go on to play in the National Football League, other than the Stars that we mentioned, some coaches. So it wasn't
Jim Mora, Sam Mills.
I'm sorry?
Jim Mora was a coach. He coached the Stars. Sam Mills played in the league.
Sure.
I'm trying to think who else was Chuck Fairbanks, but I don't think he coached in the NFL.
No, he didn't. He didn't. But there were Herschel Walker.
Of course.
And the great thing about Herschel Walker was the trade that Jimmy Johnson made when he first took over Dallas with Herschel Walker laid the foundation for the Cowboys winning, 3 Super Bowls in a row. So there was that. There was a lot. And to be honest, Steve Spurrier at Tampa Bay went on obviously to do well as a college football coach after that. And there were some guys who came out of there, not just the coaches, players, and as we said, even executives who came out of it from that standpoint. But anyway, let's take a look at what's going on in the NHL today.
Yeah, like I said, it's weird, but we don't have any college basketball to talk about. We'll have to figure out something to fill that slot. Zach said he bet on the World Dart Championships last year. That's really going out there.
Zach, buddy, got to get a life, bud.
How do you do the research on darts? Because a lot of those guys are very good. I mean, I don't know where I would start with something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd have to watch a lot of darts. But we'll start in the Motor City. Yeah, we'll start in the Motor City with Lenny's Red Wings hosting the Rangers. The Rangers, of course, went into the Glass House last night and beat the Penguins 3-2.
Mm-hmm.
So they're playing the second game of back-to-back. It's the 4th game in 6 nights for New York. They beat Buffalo in overtime on Sunday. They're 43-19-5. They're 21-13-2 on the road. The Red Wings are 26-32-8. Not all that impressive when you get right down to it. I know Lenny had hopes that this team was going to make a run to the postseason. Not going to pan out, it doesn't look like at this point. It's supposed to be Alexander Georgiev, 10-9-1 with a 308 goals against, an 894 save percentage, and 1 shutout expected to start for the Rangers against the Red Wings. Alex Nedeljkovic, he's 17-20-7 with a 326 goals against, a 901 save percentage, and 2 shutouts. The Rangers are 18th in goals for at 3.01. The Red Wings are 21st at 2.82, but that's where the similarities end. If you look, the Rangers 3rd in the league in goals against at 2.57. Detroit is dead last in that category, giving up 3.80 goals a night, including that horrible 11-2 shellacking at the hands of the Penguins the other night. Detroit has just fallen off a cliff defensively. It's got to be disturbing for Steve Yzerman and the boys. You have to think they'll try to address that gaping hole in net during the offseason, whether that's trying to find somebody in free agency or via trade or hoping you can draft somebody that's worth something. I get that Nedeljkovic has played well at times, but Thomas Grace has been a disaster. Calvin Pickard, nobody cares about him either. And Nedeljkovic, I don't think is cut out to be a number 1 at this level. The Rangers are 21-5 in their last 26 against Atlantic Division teams. They're 4-1 in their last 5 in the fourth game of a 4-game and 6-night situation like we're facing right here. They're 4-1 in their last 5 on the road. The Red Wings, well, they've struggled. They're 1-5 in their last 6 when their opponent gives up 2 goals or less in their last game, and they're just 2-11 in their last 13 as a home underdog. It's hard to have faith in a team like Detroit right now, the way they've gone spiraling down the standings and into oblivion as far as the playoff picture goes. You remember just a couple weeks ago, they were within single digits of a wild card spot. You look up now, and the Red Wings now sitting 24 points behind the Capitals. They have 16 games remaining. So the tragic number for them creeping up quickly.
Mm-hmm. By the way, Tim Earle's in the house. Good to see you, Tim. I got a chance to catch some of your show this morning. You were always entertaining, my friend, and we are working on a little bit of echo that Chris has to fix that aspect of it. And
we're having an echo again?
Yeah, a little bit of an echo, but
can't figure out why.
Maybe your audio is a little too high. I don't know. Michael, good to see you in the house, my friend. So, yeah, the Rangers are looking good. It's no easy feat to go to Pittsburgh and dominate, and they did that yesterday. So, good on them. And now they got to go to Detroit and do it again. So we'll see what happens tonight. Moving on from...
Yeah, I think Kenny Albert will be on that game. It's a TNT contest.
Yeah, it's a TNT game. Why they picked that game, I'll never know, but okay.
Because nobody wanted to see Winnipeg and Buffalo.
Kenny Albert would have been on that game anyway. Because he also does the
Rangers. That's true, yeah. Maybe that's why they picked it.
Yeah, he does the Rangers, so it's, they don't have to pay him, they pay him extra, but they probably don't have to pay him transportation. So there you go. Anyway, so let's move on and see who's next on the agenda here.
Edmonton and the Kings. Now, the Kings have played good hockey. Let's not take anything away from them. Yeah, they're 36-23-9. They actually have a good record on the road, which is strange. Unfortunately, the Kings are also battling a slew of injuries. Drew Doughty not expected to come back during the regular season. Blake Lizotte is questionable. Andreas Athanasiou is out. Dustin Brown, is out. Brendan Lemieux, insert name here. I mean, they're dealing with it's a battle of attrition at this point. The Oilers, they played well since they fired Dave Tippett. I was not a big fan of firing Tippett. I didn't think it was his fault that they're basically a one-line team. They've been a one-line team for years because the Oilers refuse to invest in alternative talent to bolster their core of McDavid and Draisaitl. And their goaltending is atrocious. They didn't make a move at the deadline, which was surprising. Why they think they're going to roll with a 39-year-old Mike Smith and a questionable starter and Mikko Koskinen in the playoffs is beyond me. We saw how that blew up last year. But in this one, I'm going to roll with them here. They're playing at home. They've been playing well there. Like I said, the Kings are beat up. It's going to be Jonathan Quick, 17, 12, and 8 with a 265 goals against, a 909 save percentage, and 2 shutouts against the aforementioned Mikko Koskinen, who, despite being 24, 10, and 3, you look at the rest of those numbers, and they're not all that great. 311 goals against, 901 save percentage, 1 shutout. Kings are 20th in goals for, 2.84 to the Oilers' 7th at 3.43. The Kings have the edge defensively. They're 9th in goals against at 2.81. The Oilers 22nd at 322. But it's tough to contain Edmonton at home offensively, especially of late. We saw them whip up on the Coyotes the other night. They got involved in that 9-5 loss to Calgary before that. And before that, they beat San Jose 5-2. So if you look in their last 10 games, they've scored at least 4 goals on 8 of those occasions, which is makes you a dangerous offensive team for sure. There's 3.61 goals per game at home. Kings only put up 2.75 on the road. Oilers are 6-0 in their last 6 as a favorite. 6-0 in their last 6 as a home favorite. They're 7-0 in their last 7 at home. Kings struggling, just 3-7 in their last 10 against the West, 2-5 in their last 7 on 1 day of rest, 1-4 in their last 5 when their opponent gives up 2 or less, and they've dropped 5 of the last 6 trips out here to Edmonton. Maybe it's the Gretzky hangover. Everybody remembers the famous trade back in 1988 that didn't help the Kings really. They never won a cup with Gretzky. I know they went to the finals in 93 when we had the whole Marty McSorley illegal curve incident that, Montreal then tied the game on the power play, won in overtime, and then proceeded to blow the Kings out of the water. It's tough for the Kings to go to Edmonton. It's even tougher when you're banged up and when Edmonton's playing good hockey. I'm going to take the Oilers.
I don't think that the Kings just haven't been playing well.
They got pasted by the Kraken 6-1 the other night.
Yeah. I don't know if Jonathan Quick played in that game, but definitely not. They're just not playing defense at all. Quick question about tonight's U.S. men's national team game between Costa Rica and the U.S. men's team. Now, if the U.S. wins, then they automatically qualify for the World Cup. One way or the other, they're going to get there. But tonight, with a win on the road in Costa Rica, they get it. I think the was 110. Is that what Zach?
Yeah,
was that Zach had that?
Yeah.
Okay. They can get in with a tie.
If they can get in with a tie, well, they should take it because if you look, they've not had a lot of success against Costa Rica in their lifetime.
They're playing in Costa Rica. So
I want to say they're like 0-9-1 or something like that against Costa Rica in qualifying. That's what 0-9-1. And that draw came back in 1985.
Michael says that the U.S. men's also are a +9 goal differential. That the way they played in the past 2 years, cycles doesn't really give you a lot of confidence that going on the road and beating Costa Rica, and beating them soundly is a good thing.
Yeah, apparently their goal differential is actually +13. Costa Rica's is +3. But
that's misleading though.
True, but here's the stat: the U.S. can make the World Cup as long as they win, draw, or lose by less than 6.
Yeah. Franco thinks it's going to be a draw. No bet. Don't bet on the USA.
I agree with Franco. I don't I don't necessarily know a ton about soccer, but when I see that you're 0-9-1 in your lifetime against a team, and you have to go to Costa Rica, and that as long as you don't get blown out, into oblivion, that you're going to qualify anyway.
Well, they also have a lot of players coming back off. They literally had red card fever. I mean, or yellow card fever. I'm sorry. So they're going to have guys who couldn't play in the last game are going to play this game. You know what? A tie would be good. I'd take a tie if I were them. Hell, at this point, as you were saying, as long as they don't. And Michael brings up a very good point. The Costa Rica goalie is from Paris Saint-Germain. He's making. Tell you what, Michael, you're making a good case to not bet on the U.S. men's team tonight, or to bet at least that they, they're getting points, or what's the deal on that, Chris? Get a line on that?
I'll see if I can.
They're +110.
I don't know if they do goal lines in soccer like they do in.
Meanwhile, Quentin has a quick question. He thinks that the
Kings +2.5. Well, I mean, then you're basically saying that Edmonton would have to win by 3 to cover that. I mean, sure. I mean, I'm not expecting the Kings to go out and win 7-2 or the Oilers to win 7-2 or anything like that. But if you're paying the premium for 2.5 on the Kings, first, good luck finding a book on that because all the ones I see are 1 or 1.5. But you'd be paying an awful lot of juice to get 2.5 goals for the Kings because even getting 1.5 is plus anywhere between plus or minus 135 and minus 150. I can only imagine minus 2.5 or plus 2.5 would be somewhere up in the probably the near minus 200. I mean, the Oilers at minus 1.5 is going off between plus 120 and 130. Yeah, if you want to throw a lot of juice on it and say that taking the Kings plus 2.5 goals, you can. It would be an awful steep investment, I think. Okay, there you go. Zach said soccer is a three-way line, so U.S. to win is plus 110, draw is plus 210, Costa Rica to win is plus 270.
Yeah, I was just looking at Caesar Sportsbook. Has them as plus 114. And yeah, no 265.
If it was me, I would lean towards a draw because I don't.
Draw is plus 195, and the total goals scored between the two is 1.5.
Oh, that's the over under.
Yeah. So the over under on the book on the game is 1.5. I don't know if I was, and I'm not, I'd stay away from it. But if you really do, that might be the play, is to go with 1.5.
Yeah, I would probably lean towards. I'd lean towards a draw. I just don't necessarily. I think that Team USA will be complacent because they don't want to give Costa Rica any chances to try and get out there and pile up a bunch of goals.
I wouldn't disagree with Michael's assessment of what's going on there.
Yeah, that's true. Mexico is tougher. Yeah, basically playing keep away so they don't give up opportunities.
Yeah, it's the old Italian play from midfield back, make you score goals. They play defense.
If you look too, the U.S. is 0-2-2 in their last 4 on the road.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, they beat Panama the other day, but that game was at home. And you might not see a lot of those guys like Pulisic and stuff playing big minutes because of the fact that they've got that goal differential to work with.
Right.
So I'd lean towards a draw.
Yeah, we'll get to the Celtics there in a little while, Sean. All right, so from the pitch, let's go.
I agree with Sly. Costa Rica to cover and then draw, or Costa Rica to win. You're still okay.
What, Super Sly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sly's on it. He knows what's going down.
We'll follow you, Sly. We'll go with it. All right. The National Basketball Association, I understand, is still playing.
Allegedly.
Let's go with the NBA and see what's going on over there.
There's the NBA, yes.
Yes, they
are.
We'll
start with Phoenix. Can you believe this? The Phoenix Suns are playing basketball. I know it's a shocker. They're taking on Golden State. Remember when we used to talk about how this was such a crowded race for the Pacific Division?
I was about to say, remember the good old days when these two teams were pretty equal?
Yeah, remember like late January?
Yeah. Those were the good old days.
The halcyon days of winter and snow.
Right. So now we have the Phoenix Suns, who already are in the playoffs. They are salted that away, and they're on the road to play.
Yeah, they pretty much locked down. I think they've pretty much already locked down home court.
Yeah.
As well.
61.
This line's actually gone down. Yesterday, last night it was at 6.5. It's at 4.5 now, which is weird because when you look at the injury report, there's no new additions. I mean, Steph Curry isn't going to play for the Warriors. Apparently, Andre Iguodala will be back tonight for the first time in a while.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, for Phoenix, Cameron Johnson is doubtful. He's been dealing with that quad injury ever since he had that banked-in 3 against the Knicks back in early March. Frank Kaminsky's been out since November. Nobody cared. Dario Saric, I don't think has played all year, or if he did, it was way back in October, November. JaVale McGee is out with a non-COVID illness, but this was a factor last night, so I don't see why the line has moved that much. You have to look. The Suns are third in scoring offense at 115.3. They're first in field goal percentage at 48.8. They're fourth in three-point shooting at 37%. I get the Warriors are good on defense. They're fifth in the league. They're second in field goal percentage defense. They're fifth in three-point defense. Yeah, I'm not sure why this line is moving. I guess people are betting on Golden State because of the fact that Iguodala is back in the mix. But let's face it, Iguodala is not a guy that's going to move the needle as far as a scoring option. And, how long is – let me see on the last time Iguodala played, because I know it's been a while because he's been battling that back issue for God knows how long.
We've gotten – in both the NHL, we talked about it yesterday. We got both the NHL and the NBA some pretty wonky lines lately, where things start off going one way and then go the other way for no apparent reason.
Yeah, Iguodala's last game, he played 5 minutes and 46 seconds against the Thunder on February 7th. Before that, you had to go back to January 20th. So he's played one game in 2+ months. And in that, he didn't even play 6 minutes.
Well, Steph Curry's not playing.
Right. Curry's not playing. I mean, Thompson's playing. Draymond Green is playing, but CP3 is back for the Suns. He played well the last couple of games. Devin Booker is there. I don't understand unless there's diehard Golden State fans jumping out there saying we're going to die on this hill and throw a bunch of money at them to move the line.
Yeah, I don't see the Suns coasting.
No, I don't either. I mean, if they were going to coast, then they would have coasted against Philadelphia the other night, or some of these other teams. I don't get why the line shifted either. There's nothing on the injury report. I just checked it. It was just updated a couple of minutes ago. The only thing I can think of is because they're playing at the Chase Center, so they decided that giving that many points was too much, so it got knocked down.
So playing at the Chase Center is worth a point. I mean, I'd buy that if
it's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you look at the numbers here, it doesn't make a ton of sense.
Well, go down there to the
you're right, Ricardo. He did. I forgot. Iguodala did play against Memphis. I missed that one down here at the bottom. He played 15 minutes. And finished with 6 points? Again, he's averaging 4 points a game this year.
Yeah, but that's 15 minutes is not. It's not going to get it. It's not going to get it done.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Suns here. I mean, I can't figure out anything. What it was. HAS says it's the last game of the night screw job. We've seen that happen with some of these games where the lines come out wonky, and then all of a sudden somebody will get ruled up 5 minutes before the contest. The Suns are 4-0 in their last 4 against teams with a winning record. They're 7-1 against the spread in their last 8 overall. The Warriors 0-5 against the spread in their last 5 after a straight-up loss by double digits. They lost to the Wizards, for crying out loud. And then they were trounced by Memphis the other night in a game where, we said Memphis is 18-2 without John Morant. And there's Kevin Harlan to give us an update on the bat phone. But no, it just doesn't make sense why Golden State's only a 4.5 point underdog. I'm just looking to see how things went between these teams before. Let's see. Phoenix. Let's see. Okay, Golden State lost first meeting by 8. They won the second one by 22. That was back in December, and they won on Christmas. So these teams haven't met since Christmas Day. And it's been a massive change of fortune as far as how things have gone for those teams since, thanks to injuries and everything else. I just think in the end that there's too many weapons for Phoenix. And look at their record, 30-6 on the road. There's plenty of teams that would love to have that for a home record.
True.
So I'm going to go with the Suns. Ricardo, I appreciate the comments about the format. We try to put all that stuff out so that way everybody can see where we're going from. That way all the information is laid out and people can get what we're trying to put across, because it makes it a little easier than just trying to rattle things off the top of our heads. Ryan,
it also allows the people to write some stuff down if they want.
That's true.
Gives you an opportunity to see that research has been done. This is not just a pick it out of your head type of thing.
And Ryan, I guess it's always possible that you'll see Booker or Paul get pulled or get marked down later this afternoon or early this evening on the injury report. But as of right now, and this was the 2:30 injury report from the league itself, neither one of their names are showing up on it. Now, of course, you could always check back at 5 with Nick, Tim, and Lenny, and Detroit Lenny on game time decision to see if there's any further updates about these guys. But as it stands at this moment, neither one of those guys are on the injury report.
Well,
so at this point, I'm saying take the Suns and run.
Yeah. I mean, it's not an overwhelming amount of points to give.
No, especially when you've got 61 wins.
Yeah. All right, let's move over to the next one. Let's see. Quentin has a parlay he wants to run by you. See if you like this one.
Rangers, Raptors, Suns. I like the Suns. I like the Rangers. Let me see.
He's betting money line all the way across on this.
The Raptors are playing the Timberwolves, if memory serves. It's at the Scotiabank Arena. Minnesota's 2 games below 500 on the road. Toronto has been great at home, but they've played better of late. Beasley's out for the Timberwolves. Yeah, you could do worse. I mean, the Raptors have played good ball of late. They beat Boston the other night in the second game of back-to-back when the Celtics had hammered Minnesota the day before.
Just out of curiosity, I wonder, Quentin, why the money line instead of the points on Phoenix? I mean,
there's like I said, there's those people that don't want to give points, and I get it.
True.
Toronto's down to a 2.5 point favorite. It was 3 earlier, so that ticked down slightly. But yeah, that's why I always put both of them up, because there's some people that just want to play the money line because they don't want to have to sweat out whether a team's going to backdoor cover you.
Right.
But yeah, that's not a bad one. I can get behind that.
Yeah.
I mean, look at speaking of Detroit Lenny, look at the Pistons last night.
Yeah.
We took them plus 14 points. Reichel was at the game apparently. He left our
blame it on him.
Well, no, I took the Pistons with the points they covered.
Okay.
But yeah, he left the baseball show because he had to do something else and then go
there.
Yeah, go to the Barclays Center.
Grizzly and San Antonio. We've been loving the Grizz.
Yeah, this is another one where I'm surprised the line has actually come down, because the line last night when I was doing research was, hold on, because I've got it written down here because I keep a sheet with all the stuff I'm going through. Last night, the line was Memphis by 6.5, and this was right around midnight. That line has now trended to, it was 5. Now, yeah, it's still 5. So it's trended down 1.5 points, which the only thing I can see that comes up here is Jaren Jackson Jr. is questionable with a thigh injury. But they play. We said the Grizzlies are 18-2 without Ja Morant. The Spurs, they moved into the last spot in the play-in tournament thanks to the Lakers losing, because San Antonio owns the tiebreaker. But they won't have Romeo Langford. They won't have Doug McDermott. DJ Stewart's down in the G League. Lonnie Walker is apparently available, but I'll be interested to see how many minutes he can go with that stiff back. Meanwhile, for the Grizz, outside of Jackson, Morant is out. Yves Pons is down in the G League, getting back up to speed. Killian Tilly out with a knee injury. But let's face it, they're talking about two teams at different ends of things here. And the line is actually, like I said, it's 5. The money line is down to minus 210 instead of 240. But, the Grizz are first in the league in scoring offense. That doesn't bode well when you're a San Antonio team that's in the bottom quarter of the league in scoring defense at 113.3. They're 22nd in field goal percentage defense. They're 22nd in three-point defense. The Spurs can score, but they can't stop anybody. And that's been their Achilles heel all season. San Antonio all of a sudden decided they want to run like, they're the 7 seconds or less era under Mike D'Antoni when the Suns were doing that with Steve Nash.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really Popovich's style. Memphis is 4-0 in their last 4 after an ATS win. They're 4-0 in their last 4 after a straight-up win. And they're 4-0 in their last 4 after beating somebody by double digits. San Antonio, 1-8. Their last 9 as a home underdog. They're 0-5 in their last 5 at home against teams with a road winning percentage greater than 600. I'm going to go with Memphis.
I think there's no question. You got to go with Memphis on that one. Ricardo throwing some soccer back with us.
Oh, we were just saying people were saying that they wouldn't bet on the soccer game itself. That's why he said no bet. We were just talking about how if you were going to bet, the draw or to lean towards Costa Rica would probably be the safer option. But
right.
If you don't want to bet on the game at all, or if you don't have a strong play, then stay away from it. That's what
Here's something that Coin wants to know if you agree with, and that is he wants play safe.
There's nothing wrong with it. There's people that like to play safe. There's people that get mad if we say to play money lines because some of them get, prohibitive. You've seen them with some of the games we've talked about before, like whenever Vermont was playing. So that's why we put them both up there, because that way people have the option if they want to play the money line and play it safe, or if they want to play the points. It's all about options.
Right. That's what we do. We give you 2 for the money, 4 for the show, and the big go for everything, where you can take 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, all the way you want. And by the way, if you want Chris's parlays, the personal parlays that he likes, go to our show box below and click on the link, and it'll show you how to get it sent directly to your mailbox. Okay, so if you want Chris's personal picks on these games, not just these games, we're giving you these games, but some other games, check it out. It's in the show box below. Check all the fun stuff down there. We got some good bet, Caesar's Sportsbook action down there. We got all kinds of places to find out what goodies we got going on right here at the network. So by all means, check out this show box below. And now we're going to go for 2 for the money. All right, you ready, folks? Here we go. And boom.
Games we talked about already. We've talked about the Suns. We talked about the Rangers and the Red Wings. Detroit is just a team going nowhere at this point. We're going to roll with the Rangers, even though it's the second game of back-to-back. We talked about Memphis over San Antonio. We talked about the Oilers and the Kings. The Kings, like you said, Jim, they're not playing well in their own end of the ice.
Yeah.
Getting pasted by Seattle the other night had to be a rough wake-up for the Kings, who are still battling, for a playoff spot. That's a crowded field in the Western Conference when you look at it going into tonight. Just taking a look here at the Wildcard Standings. And in the West, the Kings are fortunate. They're second right now in the Pacific, so they've got a guaranteed spot, but they're only 2 points ahead of the third-place Oilers. And Vegas is only 3 points behind Edmonton. So while you have a little margin of error, it's not a big one. And you have to think Edmonton has a game in hand. Then you've got Dallas and St. Louis. They hold the 2 wildcard spots. They have 3 games in hand on the Kings. So that's something that could come into play later on. But, you look at the wild cards, St. Louis 81, Dallas 77. Then Vegas has 76. Winnipeg has 74. Vancouver has 63. San Jose has 66. They're still in it, but they've got to start winning some games, and it starts tonight with Arizona, who became the second team or the third team to be eliminated from playoff contention. joining the Canadiens and Flyers in the we don't have to worry about playing for anything other than a participation trophy the rest of the year.
Let's go with 4 for the show.
Yeah, we've got Denver and Indiana. I can't trust Indiana. I just looked at the Indiana's injury report. The Pacers are a train wreck. Here's their injury report as of just a couple minutes ago. Goga Bitadze is questionable with a sore foot. O'Shea Brissett is questionable with a back issue. Chris Duarte is out with a toe problem. TJ McConnell out, of course, with that wrist surgery. Ricky Rubio torn ACL. Miles Turner, he's done for the year with that foot injury. TJ Warren didn't play all year, won't play the rest of the season with a foot problem. Malcolm Brogdon is marked out for rest, so I don't know if he's going to play. Isaiah Jackson, questionable with a headache. Dwayne Washington Jr., questionable with a hip bruise. Basically, they're trying to get Dale and Antonio Davis, Jamal Tinsley, Rick Smits, and seeing if Reggie Miller wants to come out of the broadcast table and suit up because Indiana is in trouble as far as injuries go. They've been terrible all season. This is a big game for Denver. They could take over, I think, the top spot in the Northwest Division with a win.
Yeah.
Their big injury, if you can call it one, other than the obvious ones of Murray and Porter Jr., Jermichael Green, questionable with a sprained wrist. If he doesn't play, it just means you get to see Jeff Green. Not really a big loss. Not necessarily the long injury report, the more likely you win. I mean, look at the Lakers, Marlo. They were in that game yesterday, and they had a longer injury report than Dallas and got blown out. So, yeah, that's true. The Pacers could use Cheryl Miller. I mean, the Pacers could use pretty much anybody that has a pulse. I'm sure they would probably get some of the guys from their old ABA days if they could. I'm going to take the Mavs over the Cavs in the rhyming show. No, it's not just you. I get where you're coming from with Dallas playing the second game of back-to-back. As long as Doncic doesn't suddenly pop up on the injury report, and he's not on it right now. Spencer Dinwiddie's out, but I don't know how much of a contributor he's been because it's basically been the Doncic show since they traded Porzingis. And the Mavs still have a lot to play for down the stretch because they want to make sure they keep a guaranteed playoff spot. The Cavs, they don't have Jared Allen. Evan Mobley is out again tonight with an ankle injury. And, of course, you don't have Rondo. Woo. RJ Nembhard is available for those of you that were concerned about that. Markkanen could step up and put up some points. The problem between Markkanen and Mobley is Mobley can rebound. Markkanen is just kind of passive when it comes to that. But I can see him getting some points. I could also see Kevin Love getting some more run or C.D. Osman in that regard. Vegas, I'm going to take over the Kraken.
This is a gotta-win game for Vegas.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm just taking a look to see if they've confirmed who's going to start in net for Vegas yet. People keep saying that Robin Leonard's going to come back. I haven't seen it. Right now they're showing – Yeah, exactly. Right now they're showing Logan Thompson is going to start, and Chris Dredger is expected to get the start for Seattle. Apparently, they finally listened to me and decided that they weren't going to start Philippe Grubauer to stink out the place again. Because let's face it, he's been less than stellar this season.
Well, you got to do what you do best.
Yeah, I guess so. And I'm going to look for the Heat and the Celtics to go over the total. I know it's strange when you think about how these teams play defense, but if you look of late, these teams have been piling up points for some unknown reason. Miami has put up 5 overs in their last 6. Boston has 6 straight games going over the total. They had 5 straight where they scored at least 124 points before losing the other night to Toronto in overtime, 115-112, in a game where they didn't have Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, or Al Horford. So you have to wonder how many more points they would have had those guys played. but I look for this to go over the number, which, like I said, I know it's a little weird, but both teams have regressed a little bit defensively since the All-Star break. I get that Boston's still first in the league in scoring defense, and Miami is fourth. But they've both given up more than 3 points more per game since the break than they did before. This number is actually down to, what do I have it at? Okay, 213.5. I just didn't know if it changed. Yeah. So I look for that to end up over the total. Like Lex said, the Celtics are kind of over machines.
That's true. All right, let's go to the big board.
And Sean brought up a valid point. With Robert Williams, the Time Lord, being out with that torn meniscus, it's going to have to force them to put up more points. It's also going to create holes inside because Boston's going to have to commit someone to help defense on Adebayo or something like that. It's going to open up opportunities for some easy buckets. And now we go to the big board, which has got a whole bunch of weird games that we normally wouldn't talk about, but it just goes to show you what happens when you have weird scheduling days like today.
And funky lines. Yes.
Yeah. Like the Hornets. Look, they're favored. They're playing the Knicks. Normally I would just laugh at this because it's the Knicks, but the Knicks have won games, and it's very concerning. They've won 4 in a row. Now, of course, they beat Charlotte and Charlotte. They beat Miami. Then they scraped by Detroit, and they edged Chicago. But this is a third game in 4-night situation for the Knicks. I get there at home. Charlotte has a bit more to play for at this point, and the Hornets had won 7 of 8 before losing to Detroit the other night. Losing to Denver at the game that our good buddy Tim Earl was at when he said he came on the baseball show and said that Jokic had his triple-double, the Nuggets won, and he got his Jamal Murray jersey signed. So it was an all-around good night for Tim.
Ryan wants to jump in there real quick and say, hey, you finally picked the Sharks.
I pick the Sharks once in a while. A blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then.
And they're playing the Coyotes. How could we not, Ryan?
That's true, too. I wasn't going to point that part out, but,
Sorry.
Yeah, the Knicks have been winning of late. I just think that, the Knicks have a problem sustaining success. And that's their problem is, I don't think they're going to move the needle here. And Charlotte, like I said, Charlotte's still in the playoff picture. Granted, it's a tenuous spot in the playoff picture looking at the numbers here. They are currently sitting, 9th. They probably won't finish better than 8th because they're 3.5 games behind Cleveland for 7th. But, the Knicks, they're 4.5 games behind Atlanta with 6 games left. The Knicks got hot at the wrong time. They should have gotten hot 3 weeks ago. And that's pretty much why I'm leaning away from them here. In the game of who gives a damn because it's the Southeast Division.
This is the ping pong ball game.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Orlando is already out of the playoff contention, which is no surprise. They're tied for worst in the East. Washington is on life support. They're 6 games behind. They have 7 left. Pretty much tells you that we'll be seeing the big fat E next to their name here pretty soon. Washington played yesterday. They lost to the Bulls. They're playing the second game of a back-to-back. Hasn't boded well for Washington this year. Now, don't get me wrong, Orlando's not great by any stretch of the imagination. And Wendell Carter Jr. is supposed to be out with a sprained wrist. But I'm getting points. Washington is going to be fatigued. You're not going to see Kuzma again. I'm wondering if they're just going to sit him down for the rest of the year.
They might.
At this point.
Zach has a quick question. He wants to know about the thought process of an Oilers Kings over 6.5.
Well, the funny thing about when the Kings play these games is, they you get a fair amount of goals out of them. You look at the last several matchups, you've seen 7 and then 5 and then 4 and then 12 and then 11. A couple games or 3 straight games with 6. You had 7 in the last matchup. The way Edmonton's been scoring of late, and like I said, in their last 10, you look at what the Oilers have put up. offensively, and it's 4-4-7-6-6, 2-3-5-5-6. So you're looking at, let's see, 15, 21, 27, 29, 32, 37, 40, 48 goals in their last 10 games. It's no surprise the Oilers have gone over in 8 of their last 10. The Kings have actually gone over. The over is 4-0-1 in their last 5. They hung 6 on Nashville. Then they lost 4-3. Then they had a 4-2 game with Seattle. Then they lost 6-1 to Seattle. It seems like in the last stretch of games, the Kings have kind of fallen off defensively. Just looking, you see they gave up 12, 13, 18 goals in the last 5. They've scored 15. So you're looking at 6.6 goals a game in their last 5 in that stretch. I just think this could end up – it's either going to end up 4-3 or 5-2 or something like that. That's what the last matchup was 5-2. I know the Kings are struggling defensively, especially without Doughty, and then Roy is out and Walker is out. You know, they're basically trying to find live bodies to put in there on the blue line, and it just hasn't panned out. I get what you're saying, Lex. I'm not crazy about it either, but, you know, hey, Orlando's played some tough basketball of late, and Washington's kind of folded up like a cheap tent. The Pelicans and the Trailblazers, this game is just horrible. I looked at the injury report and I said, I'm wondering who's even going to play in this game. Portland's injury report is pretty much everybody. Eric Bledsoe out, Josh Hart out, Joe Ingles out, Damian Lillard, Nasir Little, Yusuf Nurkic, Anthony Simons, Trenton Watford, Justice Winslow all out. On the plus side, Greg Brown III is probable.
Yay.
So at least there's going to be one guy on the floor.
Yeah.
For the Pels, you know, Jared Harper's in the G League. Kira Lewis has been out since December. Larry Nance is going to play after, you know, knee surgery. We all know about Zion. Don't need to talk about him. Valanciunas is the big question mark. He's questionable with a sore foot. Either way, anybody that's had the misfortune of watching the Portland Trailblazers of late, the only trails they've been blazing is to getting lit up on the scoreboard or creating lines to the basket for a layup drill. If you look at Portland's games lately, they lost 3 to Oklahoma City as a favorite. They lost by 17 and 19 to Houston. They lost by 37 to the Spurs, by 31 to Indiana, by 30 to the Knicks. That's just in the last 10 games. I mean, those are some horrible numbers. This team is going nowhere. They're letting teams shoot 50% like it's going out of style. It could be a bad night.
Hey, guys, real quick favor to ask. Do me a favor, and Zach, you're watching this on Facebook. Others guys are watching us on YouTube. Do me a favor and just tell me what Facebook page or what YouTube channel you're watching this on. Okay, could you do that for me? You can either do it in the comments below or just do it in the chat box. Okay. And Chris, I don't want to hang you up, so keep going, buddy. We're at where are we? San Jose? I'm sorry, Sacramento, or are we?
Yeah, Sacramento and Houston. I skipped over Oklahoma City, but Oklahoma City's injury report is just as bad. Yeah, Oklahoma City's injury report is just as bad as Portland's because Darius Basley's out, Lou Dort's out, Derek Favors is out, Josh Giddey is out, Gilgeous Alexander is out, Ty Jerome is out, Mike Muscala is out, Kenrick Williams is out. For the Hawks, you want to see John Collins or Sharif Cooper or Gallinari. He's a late addition to the out list. DeAndre Hunter is questionable. My concern with the Hawks isn't that they'll win the game. My concern with the Hawks is that they won't cover the game because if you look at recent trends, Atlanta has struggled when it comes to covering lines. They had a double-digit line against Portland. They won by 9 as a 14-point favorite. They beat Indiana by 3 in mid-March as a 12.5-point favorite. They beat the Clippers by 6 as an 8-point favorite. They have struggles. They're 0-6 against the spread in their last 6 after scoring at least 125 points. They're 2-12 against the spread in their last 14 after a straight-up win. They're 1-5 against the spread in their last 6 after an ATS win. The alternative is you could say, hey, this might go over 229 because when these teams meet in Oklahoma City, apparently they score a bunch of points. The over is 10-1 in the last 11 meetings in Oklahoma City, 8-1 in the last 9 overall. Sacramento and Houston, we're talking about teams that are bad. The Kings we're giving 3. It could be 2.5 now. You're looking at the fact that Houston won't have Dennis Schroeder or Eric Gordon or Anthony Lamb or Christian Wood. The Kings, of course, don't have De'Aaron Fox or Richaun Holmes or Sabonis. So that was great. You traded for Domantas Sabonis, and he's not playing. That was a great trade to trade Buddy Hield and Tyrese Halliburton to the Pacers in a battle of two teams going nowhere. I'll take the Kings there. Like we said, I'm going to look for the Sharks and the Coyotes to go over 6, like Euler brought up earlier. There's been 21 goals the last 2 times these teams met. The over is 8-1-1 in the last 10 meetings. Kings and the Oilers, like we said, I'm going to look to go over 6.5. Vegas and Seattle, I look to go over 6, which is funny. But if you look, both meetings that these two teams have gone over the mark. They've combined for totals of, let's see, what was it? 6 and 7 goals, respectively, against totals of 5.5. And like Jim said earlier, this is a game where Vegas has to win if they want to stay in the playoff chase, because if you can't beat the Kraken, you probably don't deserve to be in playoff contention at this stage of things. Like Ryan said, the Sharks over the Coyotes. And I'm going with the Canucks. For some reason, the Canucks are the favorite, but they're also being the underdog on the puck line, because that's why it's so prohibitive at minus 275, because you're getting a goal and a half. It's not very often you see the favorite getting goals in this case. Fortunately, Bruce Boudreau has woken up. He's supposed to be starting Thatcher Demko tonight after starting Halak in the first matchup the other day in St. Louis, which the Blues won. Demko has been confirmed as of earlier this morning. Reports are that Ville Husso will get the start for the Blues over Jordan Binnington. I know earlier there was questions about Winnipeg and Buffalo, that game coming to you from the KeyBank Center in Western New York. I'm going to roll with Winnipeg here. I know Buffalo has played some better hockey of late. They rallied from 4-0 down to beat Chicago the other night. They've picked up a point in 6 straight games, winning 4 of those. So they're 4-0-2 in their last 6. Here's the problem. The Sabres still aren't going to make the playoffs. And while it's fun to win games at this point of the season, it usually helps when you're winning games that mean something. I know Kyle Connor is probably not going to be on the ice for Winnipeg. Neither is Nate Schmidt. They're both in the protocol, apparently. They were added this morning. But, this is a game the Jets need to pick up 2 points in the standings. I would go with Winnipeg over Buffalo.
So there you go. And real quick, let's do some promos for.
Lex said as long as the Sharks score two goals or get to 2 first against Arizona, he doesn't care.
He's a happy guy. Okay, fair enough. Remember to watch the entire Match Wagers team midday money with Sean Higgs at noon, morning with Allie Burns 1 to 2. Then we're here, Just Parlays with Chris King 2 to 3 p.m. The Scots come up at 3. Back to the window, Scott and Scott 3 to 4. Game time decisions with Nick, Lenny, and Timothy 5 p.m. And you guys are doing some baseball in between the 3 o'clock and the 5 o'clock show, right, Chris? You want to give yourself some promo today?
Well, no, I did the Central yesterday. Today, it's actually going to be. It's supposed to be Tim. Tim is going to join Scott and Scott to do the AL and NL West divisions.
Okay.
So that ought to be interesting, but. For those of you that are crazy enough to bet on NASCAR, Scott and I will be on for what we're now calling Left Turn Mania on Friday afternoons, usually around right around 4:15 Eastern. Usually after they finish their show and Steen has a chance to go drink a beverage or two Reichel gets to fix his hair or
right?
whatever he's
Makeup,
going
all
to
that
do. Yeah.
stuff. It's tough. It's tough. All right, boys and girls. Any final thoughts before we get out of here on a tough Wednesday?
No, well, Lex said that, do we think the Kraken win to stop Vegas's playoff chances out of spite?
Well, you have to be good enough to win to stop them out of spite.
I mean, you can see Dredger step up and steal a win. We've seen a lot of goaltenders do that. Yeah. We haven't seen a lot of goaltenders do it lately because goaltending has been bad around the league. If it comes down to an offensive bonanza, I think Seattle would be in trouble. But if Dredger can keep him in the game, why not?
Yeah.
I hope not from the perspective of we took Vegas, but
right. But it's possible.
Yeah, it's definitely possible.
There you go. All right, boys and girls, we will be back tomorrow. Same time, same channels that you're watching us on. And thanks for everybody, telling us where you watch us. That's greatly appreciated. And we will see you tomorrow at 2:00 right here on the Max Wagers Network. For Chris King, I'm Jim Williams saying so long, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow, 2 p.m. on Thursday for some actual college basketball action as the NIT ends it all tomorrow night.